Good afternoon. Welcome to The Way to Wow, people making money. All of a sudden, I forgot where I was. I'm your host, Kevin Bammel, and unfortunately, my guest for today couldn't make it. So we had to do a quick change up here. I'm going to be talking about just some kind of miscellaneous topics about gaining success in the professional realm. Before I do that, I wanted to just take a couple of minutes to remind you why I do this show. So, right now we hear a lot about how tight the job market is, the unemployment rate is very low, and that's all great. However, that doesn't mean that the job that we're working at or the business that we have is really something that we enjoy or feel strongly about doing. And so we join together each week live to talk about how we can upgrade our professional lives, whether that's finding a new job or a job in a different industry, whether that's starting a business, whether that's pivoting in our business, changing to a new direction, or gosh, maybe it's even getting set for retirement. All of those are options that I think we need to be, evaluating from time to time. And so this is an opportunity for us to come together and talk about the various aspects of those issues. And so you're always welcome to join us live. There's an Eventbrite page for the show, so you can always find upcoming episodes there, and you can get a free ticket to join the Zoom meeting live, or you can watch us streaming on Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn or on YouTube, of course. And hopefully there's going to be some new developments coming up in the near future. So I'll keep you posted on those. But I thank you for joining me today. And now, as I said, I'm going to take a look at just some various issues that relate to our professional success. So this comes from my book that I've been using for the last, I think 2 or 3 weeks. So here, I'll I'll show you the cover again, because, there you go. The 8 Deadly Sins of Job Hunting. See, this is avoid employment hell. That's what this is, employment hell. Taking the only 5 steps necessary to get a high-paying job. So those are so that's the book. And as always, if you would like a PDF copy of the book, it is a 5-step task-by-task system for finding the kind of job that you want. And you can see here's 5 of the sins anyway, and each one of these chapters is one of the steps. So set up your mission and goals, build your UVP, your unique value proposition, target employers and create relationships. And then the other 2 steps, market yourself, and then meet and negotiate. So I'm actually going to be focusing on the last section of the book, Put Me In, Coach. These are just some various topics that I think you will find interesting and helpful as you sort of chart out your professional success. And let me find page 208 where they begin, which should be right here. Okay, Put Me In, Coach. There you go. So, on your to-do list of creating success in the professional realm, or to a certain extent, just in life in general, there's 3 things that you should do that will basically guarantee you daily success. So when we talk about success writ large, and each of us has to come up with what that means. My definition of success will inevitably be different than yours. It's different than my daughter's. It's different than my older sister's. It's different than my friend Bill's. So I've talked about some of that in the past, and we'll readdress that issue from time to time. Having figured out what success looks like, it's not something we gain in a year per se. Success is that which we gain day by day. It's in the small things that we do that take us a little bit closer and a little bit closer and a little bit closer to those larger goals. So if our success is having financial freedom, short of, I guess, winning the lottery and getting whatever it is, $100 million, we're not going to get financial freedom in the short term. It's going to take us longer to do that. And it's really what we do each day that will eventually bring us to the point where we've reached that goal. And so it's very tempting to set a big goal and then, kind of like Professor Harold Hill, the Think System. If I think the minuet in G, I will be able to play the minuet in G. And it works out for Professor Harold Hill and the Music Man, but it doesn't work out in real life. In real life, if we want to play the minuet in G, we have to practice it, and probably practice it every day, or at least very frequently. And it's those periodic and frequent practice sessions that eventually lead us to be able to play that piece of music, or in the case of this show, leads us to professional and financial success. So there's 3 things that you can do on a daily basis that will help you be successful each day. And these are the 3 essential to-dos. The first one is to get in the habit of planning your day the night before. Now, there's lots of ways of doing this, and I've changed how I do this over the years, and I'll go back and talk about each one of these individually. But suffice it to say, you don't want to start your day out by figuring out what you need to do that day, because that will slow down momentum. So when your feet hit the floor as you get out of bed, you should be ready to execute your plan, which means no later than the night before, you should have your plan for that day. Okay. And we'll talk about ways to do that. Okay. The second thing is, I have it here, pray. Now you're saying, well, wait, Chaplain, what good is that going to do? Well, first of all, it gives us some quiet time to get focused. So we know what our goals are. We know what we need to get done that day. We need to center ourselves so we're prepared to move forward smartly, as we used to say in the military. And praying recharges your mental and spiritual batteries in the same way that breakfast recharges your physical batteries, shall we say. Okay, and I'm going to go into this more deeply. Now, do you have to pray to God? Well, I mean, if you believe in God, then I would recommend that. Now, if you don't believe in God, so you're probably not actually praying in the traditional understanding of that word, but you can meditate. You can, do an activity that helps you get centered for the day. Okay, and there's lots of ways you can do that. So we'll talk about that in greater depth. And then the last thing is you should exercise. Okay, preferably every day. Okay, now that doesn't mean you have to go, run a marathon every day. Not at all. In fact, I would argue running a marathon every day is probably not a good exercise plan. You want to mix things up, but you do want to exercise every day, because although this sounds counterintuitive, exercising gives us energy. It also helps us sleep better. So wait, it makes us more tired, but it also gives us energy. Yes, it actually does. And you can talk to sleep experts, you can talk to trainers and coaches, and they will bear me out on this. And again, I'm going to go into this in greater depth. So let's go back to the first of them, which is to plan your day the night before. Now, if you saw Cal, oh shoot, I can't remember his name. I think it's Cal Newport's book. He recommends that the evening before you actually write down the tasks that you're going to get done that next day. And he has a very regimented plan that you can follow for making sure that you're productive. I don't remember the name of his book. I will put it in the show notes so that if you're interested, you can check that out. And the book is very good. And for many, many, many years, I planned out my day, writing it out. In fact, so here's the last journal that I used. It's actually really kind of cool. This was something designed by a veteran. Let's see, here we go. Oh, oops. Well, no, I take that back. I had stopped planning out my day by hand when I started the most recent refill in here. Having said that, I did for many, like I said, many years, planned out my day by hand. Now I use a calendar program. I use Google Calendar. One of the things I like about Google Calendar is it syncs across my phone, as well as both my computers. So I have my laptop here, I'm talking on my desktop, as well as my tablet. So anytime I make a change in my calendar in one place, it automatically updates all the others, and that's very, very convenient. I frankly am not a big fan of Apple Calendar. I found it difficult to work with, and so I gave it up quite a number of years ago now. And what I do, and here let me see, how do I do this? There you go. So here, I'll show you real quickly. I'll show you what my Google Calendars looks like, because this hopefully will help you. Okay, there we go, just real quickly. So you can see that my schedule is color coded, and that helps me know what I'm doing in general, where I'm spending the bulk of my time. And as you can see from this right here, you can see most of it is in green, and green is my color for business-oriented activities. It's actually the pursuits pillar. So the colors match the 3 pillars of attainment, and you can see pursuits is green. This particular color green is for pursuits within the finances realm. Down here you can see something. Here's a pursuit. This is after work, starting at 6 o'clock. It's actually a music thing that I go to. Okay, and then here's ones that are related to maintaining relationships, things related to my daughter. Blue is related to working out, and see, I follow my own advice. I exercise every day but Saturday. Saturday is the Sabbath, and so I don't exercise on that day. So the nice thing about Google is you can color code your various calendars. I use a calendar setting program as well. I use something called it used to be called Schedule Once. It has another name now, but I just send people a link to my calendar, and they can schedule whatever time it's convenient for us to speak. And that saves a lot of back and forth. And it also automatically goes into all of my Google Calendar, which goes across all my devices, saves a lot of time. And so it doesn't take any extra work for me to have my schedule planned for the next day, because it's all happening automatically as I schedule an appointment, et cetera, et cetera. Now, in some cases, there is some unscheduled time in the day. And on the days that there are, that I use that to catch up on various tasks that don't involve other people and or that I haven't previously scheduled in. And you know, honestly, sometimes I'll just take a little time to relax, especially if it's been a particularly busy week, or if I have a meeting in the evening or very late afternoon, early evening. So if I have an hour off in the middle of the day, I may take that time just to relax a little bit, in order so that I can be prepared and ready to you know, deal with the later in the evening event more efficiently. So that's what you can use. Now, if you are still using you know, a paper calendar, that's fine. It does take more work to keep it up to date, but there are there are some fine ones out there. I think Day Runner is still out there. I used to use another system. I don't remember what it's called, but I really loved it. It was a really great system. And then for many years, I just used a little notebook like this, where I would write out my schedule by hand, and I had a set of colored pens that I used with a similar color scheme to the one you saw in my Google Calendar. And that, again, one glance at my calendar let me know what I was going to be spending my time on that day, and I found that very useful. So that's it. So you know, also, here's a couple of things I'm going to mention here from you know, from directly from my book. So knowing what tasks you face the next day allows your brain to work on them while you sleep. So if you know you have a meeting coming up the next day, right? So then your brain will work on, what do I need to do to that meeting, during that meeting? What do I need to say, et cetera, et cetera. So even though you may not, with something like a calendar program, need to physically make out your schedule, you should review your schedule as the last thing you do before you know, leave work for the day. Now, I work from home, so I'm not literally going to another place, but before I kind of shut down for work for the day, I take a look at my calendar so I know what's coming up, and then in the back of my head, okay, you know, my mind is working on, what do I need to do to be prepared to meet the challenges of tomorrow. Okay, so that's one thing. Second thing is, I mentioned this a minute ago, you won't waste time in the morning figuring out what needs to be done. You know what needs to be done, okay? And the other thing I do is I keep a task list of various things that they're not, you know, time sensitive, but when I have you know, free time, quote unquote free time, unscheduled time in my calendar, that's my time for taking on one of those tasks. So whether it's so earlier today, I had some unscheduled time, and so I was able to make some introductions that I had told someone I spoke to yesterday that I would make for him. And I took care of some things that had to be taken care of for my daughter with her school, et cetera, et cetera. So, you know, I do keep a parallel written task list. Once, you know, but if something is crucial, then I put it into my calendar to make sure that I have specifically scheduled time in order to get it done. Okay, and then the last thing under plan your day the night before is there's less of a chance that some kind of tempting diversion will sidetrack you from getting done that day what you need to get done and eventually getting to your goal. So it's a discipline thing to make sure that you've got your day scheduled out. Okay, it keeps us, you know, we can try and use self-discipline to do these things, but the reality is that self-discipline is like a muscle, and we have to build it up. And one of the ways to build up discipline is to turn certain things into a habit that then we just execute without having to use, you know, that real tough muscle of self-discipline. And so the more we can get used to planning our day the night before, so then in the morning it's execution time, the better off we'll be. And I will say too that one of the nice things is when we get to the end of the day, we have an opportunity to look at, okay, did I get everything done today that I needed to get done today? Did I meet all of my objectives? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Now, I'm in a education program right now, and what's kind of neat is I'm actually ahead of schedule as of right now, and I may actually finish my my studying for the week tomorrow, right? And so then on Friday, when I have that study time booked, I can either get ahead for the following week, or I can study something else that isn't as important. But if I get it done, it just means it's one less thing I have to be concerned about for the future. So what I've also found is we work more efficiently when we've got everything all scheduled out. Okay, so plan your day the night before. You'll hear this. Anyone who talks about productivity will tell you that that's a key. Okay, so let's look at the next number 2 is pray. Okay, or if you need to make the mental shift, engage in a mental and spiritual centering activity. Okay, so you want to recharge your mental and spiritual batteries each day. Okay, and now in my case, since I follow sort of a traditionally observant, since I do follow a traditionally observant Jewish life, so I'm obligated to pray 3 times a day, in the morning, in the afternoon, and in the evening. Right now, these are not necessarily lengthy prayers. The morning prayer is the set of prayers is the longest. Typically takes me anywhere from about 20 to 30 minutes, unless it's some kind of holiday or festival or whatever. So then it's longer. But I take that time, and I also, by the way, study a little for about 15 minutes each morning. I used to study longer. I'm just don't have the time to do that now with my daughter back in school and with work commitments, etc. So I'll take about 15 minutes to study what's called the Talmud. It's a book of Jewish learning, and then after that I go into saying my prayers. And I get that done now on the weeks that my daughter's with me. So then right after that, I'm taking her to school. And when she's not with me, I'm moving into breakfast. So I have an extra half an hour in the morning to have breakfast and go to my next step, which is checking into the business news for the day, which helps me with the kind of work that I do, coming up with ideas, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. Now and then in the afternoon and the evening prayers are relatively short, just really a few minutes. Now you don't have to pray 3 times a day. I'm only just explaining what I do. I need those 3 times during the day to just kind of bring myself down from the stresses and challenges of the day. But you don't necessarily need to do that. And you don't need to do your longest one in the morning. Figure out what works for you. Maybe the best time for you to pray is after you're done working, as a transition between, the workaday world and, being at home with your family, or if you work at home, rejoining your family fully, because presumably you're working at home, you're creating some kind of distance between you and your family so that you can get your work done. So whatever that is, or maybe you need to do it in the middle of the day because the stress builds up, and so you take that in the middle of the day and it lets the stress come back down, and then you work for a few more hours, and then you're good to go. Whatever that is, it doesn't really matter. What's key is to make sure that you take the time to get you that centering and that recharging of your mental and spiritual batteries. So what do you do during this time? And by the way, if you're not praying in the sense of formally praying to God, okay, but there are still, I think there's common components to what we want to be having in mind when we do these, and you see those here. So you can express gratitude for what you have in your life. That's a wonderful thing to do, and it is also proven to be a stress reducing process. So whether it's family, friends, rewards received, or trials overcome, or just small things that you've been able to come over, these can all be an inspiration to thankfulness on your part, and you can meditate on the sense of gratitude that hopefully they bring to your life. Okay, and it'll give you a sense that no matter what awful things are happening in your life, there is, hopefully there's at least one thing in your life that you can be grateful for, and that works very much into maintaining a hopeful attitude toward life. So it's incredibly important to maintain some sense of hopefulness about life. And in fact, in the face of all of the mental and spiritual dislocation that happened during the COVID times, and the damage to people's mental and spiritual well-being, a lot of people went through bouts of depression, bouts of hopelessness, and I know I certainly did. Full disclosure. So I'm not coming at this from a, what's the word? Well, let me turn around. I'm coming at this from having actually experienced it myself. Okay, so one of the things we need to do is remind ourselves there are reasons for hope. Now, I'm going to digress here for just a minute and say, if you are doing your daily meditation, your daily prayer, and you find that there's nothing to be thankful for, nothing that gives you hope for the future, if that's really where you're coming from, then it is possible that you are depressed. I'm not here to be able to tell you whether you're clinically depressed or not. That's something that a psychologist or a psychiatrist would have to determine. But to the extent that we feel hopeless and we feel that there's nothing to be grateful for in our lives, that should be a red flag for us. And that means it's time for us to reach out to somebody. Okay, that somebody may be a spouse, it may be a close friend, it may be a friend, maybe not a particularly close friend. Maybe what's causing you your sense of hopelessness is your spouse or a close friend. And so you need some distance from that. But someone that you think is, empathetic or understanding. Okay, reach out to them. Maybe you need to reach out to your minister, or your rabbi, or whatever. If you have such a relationship. And if those things don't exist, maybe it's a red flag to get some professional help. There are suicide hotlines, and you don't have to literally be ideating suicide in order to use one of those hotlines. Now, I'm not saying call them up whenever you're feeling blue. Not at all. Not at all. I mean, but if you are concerned about yourself to the degree that you are hopeless and you are you just don't see any reason for gratitude, reach out to a suicide hotline and ask them for a resource that they can connect you to. Now, if you're military or you're a veteran, former military, so you can always go to Military OneSource. Through Military OneSource, you can get a number of counseling sessions for free. So I recommend that. You can also call your nearest VA facility. They will help you with that. If you're in college, your college or university will, through the health center, have people there to help you when you feel helpless, or you feel when you feel helpless too, but hopeless, or you can't find any reason for gratitude. This show isn't for kids, but if you happen to be a teenager watching this, you're going to high school perhaps, go see your high school counselor, or if you have a nurse at your high school, then you can see them, or you can see that person. Them is plural, sorry. There are people who will help you. Okay, so recognize that red flag, and it's another reason why taking a few minutes each day to attempt to center yourself is a good thing to do. It's as much a process of getting centered as it is a self-checkup. If you can't get centered, don't slough it off, okay? Especially after what we've been through the last few years. Get yourself some help. Now, I can tell you in the military, there was a big thing about, reaching out for mental health services was a sign of weakness. It is not. It is not. It is a sign of strength, because it's a sign that you are strong enough to recognize when you need help and go out and get that help. And it takes a stronger person to do that than to say, oh, I don't need help. I don't need help. I can do it on my own. Many times that may be the case, but sometimes it's not. And so if we're in that place where we need help, the strong thing to do is to ask for help. And you don't have to make it maudlin. God, I need help. You don't have to do that. Just call up a friend and say, hey, do you have a few minutes? I just wanted to chat. Oh, yeah, what's up? Oh, not much. Just, we hadn't connected for a while, or something's been bothering me, and I thought I could run it by you, and maybe you could give me some advice, or you can make it somewhat casual. You don't need to. We tend to think, I don't want to burden my friends. You may not want to burden your friends and say, I was feeling hopeless and I can't see any reason for gratitude. It's like, wow. Okay, so I mean, you can say that if it, A, if it's true, and B, if the person is close enough for you to be able to express that. But you don't have to go in that particular direction. Just talk to the person. Okay? A lot of times that will be enough to kind of get you out of that mind frame. And if it's not, then okay, I need to take bolder steps, if you will. Maybe you need some professional help, right? And so we shouldn't hesitate to do that. All right, so going back to daily prayer, daily meditation, right? Okay, another reason to do it is it gives you an opportunity to get in touch with the person you want to be. So I have taped on my bathroom mirror a statement that I read 6 mornings a week. Again, I take the Sabbath off like my exercise. Okay, and there's 2 parts to it, and I read each part every other day. And it's really my statement of identity. I started doing this, now probably about 10 years ago, at least. Yeah, 10 years ago, I think, when I got off active duty. Because I recognized that going from being an active duty service member to being a civilian again was an identity change, and I needed to figure that out. Okay. And by the way, if you need help with this process, this is one of the things that the 3 pillars of attainment is designed to help you with. So engage in that. Look at some of the, right, shameless plug. Look at some of the shows on my YouTube channel. See if there's something that speaks to a particular issue that you're wrestling with. And if not, let me know. Drop a comment in the chat, or send me an email, or comment on an episode on social media, and let me know, hey, I'm interested in knowing more about this particular topic. I'll be happy to digress and cover that, an identity topic, because I think in the end, we will have better professional success when we know who we are. And so I read about my purpose and my mission. Those are the 2 parts of our identities: our purpose, who we are inside; our mission, what impact we want to have on the world. And then below that, I've broken down my purpose and mission into concrete, large objectives, if you will. Okay. And out of those, I developed conditions of satisfaction and goals. Right. And so that's what I'm reading. And every other day I read my purpose and mission. And then the next day I read my conditions of satisfaction and goals. And it keeps me on track. Okay. In becoming that person that I want to be. Now, does that mean every minute of every day I'm that person I want to be? Nope. No, life, I don't know. I don't know about you. Life has never been like that for me. So I'm not suggesting that that should be our goal. What we want to do is I think I use this metaphor. I'm sure I've used it briefly. We want to be that airplane, flying from New York to Hawaii, and we're always, course correcting as we go, right? And so that's what we have an opportunity to do each morning, or I do it in the morning. Again, you don't have to do it in the morning. You can do it at a time during your day that makes sense. Although I do recommend you do it consistently at the same time, because that'll develop it into a habit and you're less likely to forget doing so. Now, the hard thing is not to let it become rote, right? Just sort of reading off whatever it is you've written. That's less difficult with goals, because they'll at least in my case, I change my goals month by month. My annual goals stay the same, but so they do change up a little bit. And I do change my conditions of satisfaction periodically. I review them once a quarter. That doesn't mean I always change them, but I do review them, and I will make tweaks here and there to kind of keep it fresh, to make it target more closely who it is I want to be. And if you have any questions about those kind of things, feel free to let me know. I'm happy to help you out with that. Okay. So I talk about your verbal daily drill. You see it there. So that relates to this statement that I was talking to you about. As you're praying or meditating, think about one or maybe two aspects of your identity that you're having trouble with, or that's blocking where you need to go. How can you get beyond that block? What can you do? What's something new you can try? Right? That's eminently worth meditating on. It's eminently worth sort of putting it out to God to help you with that. And if we are willing to engage in that process of that growth process, then we will find that we've grown. It may not be so obvious day by day, but if we look back on where we were a year ago and where we are today, hopefully we'll have seen some really positive growth in that time. Okay, so that's another thing to think about doing, or to engage in doing, when you do your daily prayer. And then the last thing is, let's see, so I can get it up here. Okay, there you go. So if you are someone who believes in God, so reiterate your commitment to God. Okay, we don't achieve success alone. This is not the 1700s, and we sling our rifle across our shoulder and walk off to the wilderness, and we kill a deer and we use its skin for buckskin clothes, and its meat to eat, and its bones for tools, and we really live a solitary life. I mean, even then, that we are able to shoot a deer, that there are deer to shoot isn't anything that we brought about. So we don't achieve success by ourselves. And knowing that God is with us as we pursue success, it helps, again, keep us centered. So I've said this, and I wrote a blog post on this. Again, another shameless plug. You can go check out my blog on my website, bemmel.com. So one of the things we need to learn in our relationship with God is that we may ask for something and not get it. It doesn't mean that God is saying no. Maybe what God is saying is not right now, or this isn't good for you. Okay? And by recognizing that our success is a team effort, right? That helps us deal with setbacks, with the necessity for patience, with the need to pivot in what we're doing, taking a different path. All of those can be, really tough. And so during our prayer or meditation time each day, it's very valuable to think about those things. What do I need to do? Now, this is not what you need to do necessarily that day, but just to a little bit longer perspective. Are the tasks that I'm doing each day, are they actually getting me closer to where I want to go? And if the answer is yes, good, keep on doing it. And if the answer is no, so then the question is, why not? Is it that I'm not being effective? Is it that I'm actually not getting the tasks done I just think I am? Is it that they're not the right tasks? Is it that what I'm aiming for isn't something it turns out I should be aiming for? Okay, those are all questions to ponder. Now, I can't tell you which, if any, of those explanations is the correct explanation. What I can tell you is that those are all possibilities to reflect on. Now, I know when I hit a time like that in my life, so I start reaching out to people who know me well, who know my history, know my background, and who care about me. And I talk to them about it, and I get their input, I get their counsel. And that's very valuable to me. I did that as recently as Monday. I had coffee with a very close friend of mine, and I sort of put some things on the table about me and where my life was and where I was hoping it would go to get his input. And look, he's a great guy. So he's not, I mean, he'll be tough on me if he thinks he needs to be, but he's not looking to beat me down. What he's looking to do is get me to see things in a different way that will help me break through a blockage I'm hitting, or help me to pivot in a different direction if that's what I need to do, etc. Okay, so and when you're praying, you align yourself with what some people call the infinite power of the universe, right? For those of you who are Star Wars fans, the Force, right? Whatever that is, or whatever you believe that is, we want to be part of that. And so to reflect on that daily is an excellent practice to pursue. Okay, so that is the second of the three crucial tasks: to pray every day or meditate every day, if that is a word a more comfortable concept for you. Okay, finally, exercise every day. Okay, or 6 days a week. Now, my Oura ring tells me I exercise too much. I don't know. But my coach says I exercise the right amount. So I'm going with the coach. He's really got the background to know, and he knows, the details of what I'm doing. And so I'll stick with his expert opinion. So there's lots of different benefits that come from exercising. First of all, there's heart health. So 20 minutes a day, 3 times a week is the minimum amount of exercise we need for good cardiovascular health. Okay, and when we say exercise, we mean exercise that raises your pulse rate to I think it's 150% of resting rate. In other words, we get our blood pumping, and we get our the oxygen, we get breathing, and we really get our body moving and kind of get all the cylinders sparking, or get our body sparking on all cylinders. Okay, 20 minutes a session, 3 times a week. That's the absolute minimum. Now, maybe, you can't run, or you can't bike, or do that kind of aerobic exercise. So even walk as briskly as you can. Okay. Now, of course, if you're injured, you have to, take that into account. Okay. But assuming you're healthy or reasonably healthy, so that's the minimum you want to get. Okay. Now, you also want to work on core strength, the kind of the overall strength of our body. So I work out with a trainer twice a week. That's how I do it, because honestly, I do not have the self-discipline to do the kind of exercises that I have to do with him in order to keep my core strength up. I've tried for years and years and years, just could not do it, right? So I got a trainer. Now, you might join an exercise class. That's less expensive than a personal trainer. You might get an exercise tape and put it into your schedule that this is when you're going to do your exercise tape. There's that I think it's PX 60 or whatever it is. I mean, I don't know. I found that just too much for me. But there's lots of great exercise programs out there, and you do want to mix things up. So you want to have some aerobic exercise, some core building exercise during the week. Okay, I tend to do basically every other day. So that's just in terms of the health of your body. Okay, and as I said earlier, it also improves your sleep. It'll give you more energy during the day. Now, I tend to exercise at the end of the day. I know my friend Bill exercises generally in the middle of the day at lunchtime. People go to the gym in the morning. Again, I recommend that you have kind of a set time of day that you do this. You get in the habit of doing it. Put it in your calendar. This is my time for exercising. Right now, depending on what you're doing, you may be able to do something else while you're exercising. I've been using my friend Bill as an example because he's very good about exercising every day. And roughly every other week, I'll get a call from him around the same time of the day. And he's checking in with me to see how things are going or to discuss something, whatever it is. And I'm not the only one he does this with. So he makes calls to friends and or clients while he's out walking. It helps him keep that time productive, right? And walking's boring. I mean, now I don't speak to clients when I'm walking because I'm trying to get my heart rate up as much as I possibly can, I'd be like breathing hard in their ears, which probably isn't very pleasant. So I listen to music in order to help me keep my pace up. I also do my exercise partly also for my mental health. I sort of clear my head out if I can, or if there's something that I need to think about or work out, I'll sort of plant that in my head right before I start exercising, and I let it roll around. And a lot of times it seems like essentially magically a solution will come to me when I'm out exercising. So that's part of what I do. So that's another way to make exercise so kind of do double duty. The other thing about exercise now this is me, and I'm not suggesting anybody has to adopt this. To me, exercising is for the most part something you do outside. So now it's very good to get sunshine. Okay, sunshine, among other things, helps vitamin D. It helps with a vitamin D deficiency. And so, obviously you got to be careful with, sunburn, sunscreen, all that stuff. I spent like right now, the last few days, it's been, in the 90s and up to 100 here in West LA, which is generally much cooler than other parts of Los Angeles. So, I'm putting on the sunscreen. I get a sunscreen that doesn't have a lot of chemicals in it. It's all natural stuff, works great. It makes kind of like a white thing on me that doesn't look particularly pleasant, but I'm not going out clubbing when I'm exercising. I'm exercising, so I don't worry about it. But being out in the sunshine for a period of time is also very, very healthy. It helps with energy. It helps us, fresh air, all that kind of thing. I know you're laughing. Wait, fresh air in Los Angeles? Is there such a thing? Well, maybe fresher air. I don't know. But in any event, you get out there and I walk down Wilshire and then down the street called Charlieville. It has trees and the buildings are beautiful and all of that. And so I kind of get a dose of sort of outdoor beauty. Now, I don't exercise outdoor every day because I do work with my trainer a couple of days a week, and he has an inside gym. I personally don't like working out in a big gym with a lot of other people around. I just don't care for that atmosphere. But if you like that atmosphere, and people, I read this morning in the Wall Street Journal, attendance at gyms is higher now than it was pre-COVID. So obviously a lot of people do like going to the gym. I think they like the social aspect of it. They get encouragement from seeing other people working out. They probably like the visuals. I assume they do, et cetera, et cetera. So, again, what works for you is what's important. What I do isn't the issue. I just use it as an example. But what you do, make it something that you can get in the habit of doing. Okay. And, if all you do is 20 minutes a day and you have, 5 minutes for warming up and 5 minutes for cooling down, so that's 30 minutes out of your day. That's, at most 3.5 hours a week. What you will gain in terms of productivity, in terms of potential longevity, et cetera, will be so much. It's absolutely worth doing that half hour a day. Now, if you can get, an hour a day with your, warm up and your cool down, hey, terrific. I think, that's better. Now, do you need more than an hour a day? I'm not an exercise coach or anything like that, but look, I'm a busy person like you are. So, seems to me an hour is certainly adequate. Sometimes I go longer than an hour. Depending on what I'm doing, and if I can, squeeze the time out, or if I have something I need to figure out. And so I'll take the extra time to figure it out, because I am kind of working while I exercise. So, all right. So that is, that is today's episode of the Way to Wow Show, People Making Money. And sorry that my guest couldn't make it. Hopefully I'll be able to reschedule with him, and because I do want you to hear his story. I think you will find it absolutely an amazing story. But keep in mind these 3 to-dos to guarantee your daily success, right? Plan your day the night before, pray or meditate, and get some exercise. If you do those 3 things, you will greatly increase the chances of having a successful day, and you will greatly increase the likelihood that you will meet your goals. And that is what I have for you today. So I do have a guest coming up next week, and I think you will be very interested to hear from him. He is a professional at helping people find a job that they'll like, transitioning. He works specifically with people in the military, but I think you will find that his advice will apply whether you're in the military or not. So I invite you to join me next week, Wednesday, 12:30 Pacific time, 3:30 p.m. Eastern time, and an hour each way to the time zones in the middle of the country. And that just leaves me to say the following. Oh, wait, before I say that, I do want to reiterate once again, if you think you have a remarkable way of making a living, or you know someone who does, please contact the show. I'd love to know about it, and perhaps we'll have you or the person you want to tell me about as a guest. So, drop me an email. As always, my email address will be in the show notes, or post a message on our various social media channels. Also, let me know, again, if there's a particular topic that you want to learn about. I'll be happy to do a show on that topic. After all, this is geared to help you have greater professional success. And so here we go with 1 minute left, just to remind you about the very, very special relationship in my life. My dear friend who passed away, it'll be coming up on 3 years now. She passed away September 1st, 2019. My friend Marie Faulkner, up in heaven she is. I just know she is. And she's, watching me and caring about me and loving me, because that was the kind of relationship we had. And so I just want to remind her that, Marie, darling, you are still my belle. And I think about you every day and cherish the time we had together. And I hope that you have someone, or hopefully multiple someones like that in your life, people that you cherish, that you're able to spend wonderful moments with. And for all that we talk about professional success, that really is, the tram that takes us to all the wonderful things that we can have in our lives. Family, friends, good times together, meaningful times together, struggles together. So thank you very much for joining me. I appreciate it. And I wish you a wonderful, wonderful rest of the day. See you next week.